baby.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming to hang. This is really rad.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Taking the time to come chill with us. We got Johnny Grimes, and I don't really know. Tell me your involvement in Furnace Fest and kind of your background and how this thing got started.
Yeah, so there's 4 of us, so we're all 4 equal partners. Chad Johnson, our partner, one of our partners, was the founder of Furnace Fest back in 2000. Also owned a record label in Birmingham called Takehold. And I'd gotten to know Chad really well as a teenager. He was kind of an influential guy in the hardcore punk rock scene. Had a record label, also had a venue called Slacker 66. And so he was putting on shows there. And so we were going, I mean, every time there was a show, it didn't matter who the band was, we were there. And so I got to know Chad really well. And we had just been friends ever since. So we've probably been friends for 25 years or so. And so in 2000, he decided, well, what better way to get the bands that are on my record label exposure than to just, all right, I'm going to put on a music festival and get all these great bands. And then I'm going to put my bands on the bill as well. So they're going to get exposure. And so that's what he did. And it turned into this really cool kind of organic thing, this music festival, and it consecutively went from 2000 to 2003, and it was amazing. I went every year, snuck into every one of them. I didn't pay.
Where was the show located?
It was all at Sloss.
It was all at Sloss. Okay.
Yeah, and so all 4 years were at Sloss. And so, but Chad and I have just been friends for so long, and I started pestering him about, around 2010, I was like, hey, let's do a Furnace Fest reunion 10 years later. And he was like, not a chance. Because he moved, in 2002, he moved to Seattle because Tooth and Nail Records bought Takehold Records. And
Dang,
so
that's pretty big.
Yeah, so they bought that record company and then moved him up to be one of their A&R guys. And so, but he moved back to Nashville around, I think it's maybe 2009. And he was just super burned out on the music industry.
I just burned out on Seattle, period.
Yeah.
Tired of the rain.
Yeah. But he was back in Birmingham and visiting family. And so we met at Octane when Octane was in Homewood. And we were having a beer, just hanging out, chatting. And I was like, hey, let's do a 10-year reunion of Furnace Fest. And he was like, there's not a chance. There's no way I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay. And so I just consistently hit him up over the next few years. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And
just wouldn't let it go.
I wouldn't let it go, pestered him. And but around 2017, 2018, I was like, look, 2020 is coming up. It's 20 years later. Let's do it. And he was just like, it's got a good ring to it. Let me think about it. And then simultaneously, one of our other partners, Ryan Luther, who is in Nashville as well, he's a great guy. Chad and Ryan were going to church together, and Ryan was pestering him as well. Hey,
You're both in his ear.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And Chad was like, yeah, let's do it. And so the 3 of us started working on this thing just over 3 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, and about maybe 8 months in, we realized that, we don't really have a clue what we're doing. And so Chad he knew a guy, an acquaintance named Mike Zemer, who's our 4th partner. He's a concert promoter and a festival promoter based out of Dallas. And so Chad set up a meeting with him. We talked to him. We were talking to, hey, could you come on as a consultant? And then, and anyway, to make a long story short, we just decided to bring him on as a partner. And so the 4 of us have been working on it for quite some time. It's been an amazing ride. The logistics have been a nightmare, especially when you throw COVID on top of that.
Dude, I can't imagine.
It's been crazy. So it was supposed to happen in 2020, but we postponed it. We pushed it to May, and then we pushed it from May to September.
You're building hype. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Build hype.
Dude, yeah, by the time
get out of
it
the
happens.
house, go see his live show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, and the way we announced it was really cool too. We started putting some teasers out online, so people started going crazy and about it. Well, Chad was like, I don't think anybody's going to care. He says, I don't think anybody's going to care whatsoever. I said, let me do some type of informal poll and just on my Facebook page, which, you know, I'm nobody. I'm a guy who owns some hair salons in Birmingham, Alabama, you know, so, and so I grabbed a couple of pictures from Furnace Fest 2001 or two, can't remember. And I just posted on my Facebook page, hey, would anybody be interested in coming to a Furnace Fest 20 years later? And the thing went nuts. It literally, you know, I don't necessarily know what the technical term is for viral, but for us, it went crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool that, I mean, even bands that we loved were like posting on it because people just kept sharing it, and they were like,
dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think Scott, the guitarist for Stretch Armstrong, which is one of my favorite bands, posted on there. That would be super cool. And they hadn't played a show in 10 years. And so I automatically just started screenshotting that and sending it to Chad. I was like, if we could get Stretch Armstrong to reunite for this show, it would.
That's it. That is what we need.
That's it. And that was a big challenge, but we did. We finally convinced those dudes to do it. But because there was so much online interest in it and so much excitement, we decided to pull the trigger, and we did, and it was really cool. But so I mean, we were just brainstorming, how do we do this? Because none of us have money, and so we're not this big production company. And so we were like, well, how do we pull this off financially speaking? And so we were like brainstorming, maybe we should just do a GoFundMe and try to sell like 100 tickets for $99. And that will give us a little bit of cash to be able to start, you know, booking bands and booking the venue and all that. Thankfully, we decided against doing the GoFundMe, but so we just started putting some teasers out, and we decided to go live with the one reunion band on January 1st, 2020. And
which was Stretch Armstrong?
No, it was actually Beloved.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Beloved was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Beloved, but at that time, they were a Christian hardcore band. They had recorded, an EP, and it blew up. And so then they recorded a full length and released it, and it blew up. And they were just climbing the charts. Their shows kept getting bigger, 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 bigger. And so now, like, you know, a lot of the bigger bands are playing with them and opening for them, and they just got really, really popular. And their full length album is amazing from start to finish. There's not a bad song on there. And then all of a sudden, they just broke up overnight.
Oh, what?
And
like so many bands.
Like so many bands. And I mean, these guys were tracking to be just as big as like Under Oath.
Yeah.
And they quit. And so everybody we knew would go crazy if we could get Beloved to do a reunion show. And Chad, knowing a lot of those guys, just started working on them. And what was really cool was pretty quickly they were like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. And so we launched noon, January 1st, 2020. And we went, we put tickets on sale. In 7 minutes, our website crashed. PayPal crashed. They started thinking that, it's some type of algorithm within PayPal was like, this has to be
scam.
It's a scam.
Yeah.
And so what PayPal started doing was accepting everybody's payment, but then automatically turning around and refunding them.
Huh.
And so
Just automatically.
It was really crazy, but
Crazy.
we were working with Fresh Tix at the time. That's our ticketing provider. So I called Jamie Gordon, who is actually from Birmingham as well. He lives in Atlanta now. And
Is he from Pleasant Grove?
He's he grew up.
I think I know that guy. Or we have a mutual friend in common.
Yeah. So he grew up in like Sylvan Springs, that area, which is near Pleasant Grove. But he was always in Pleasant Grove hanging out with us and a bunch of other people. But so I called him. I was like, man, what do we do? He was like, well, first of all, you've got to pull PayPal, put it on our credit card processing system. We can get that back up. and then you need to get your website back up as quickly as possible. So that happened within about 13, 14 minutes.
It's a very stressful 13, 14
my
minutes.
gosh,
Yeah, I can imagine.
we were freaking out.
Dude, I would be.
Because we were getting destroyed online. What's going on? You
Yeah,
know?
I know. And that's all it takes.
But so we finally got it back online and sold out of the tickets that we allocated. We were only going to do like, I can't remember, maybe 500 tickets. And so we were going to just release like blocks of tickets. And so we sold out pretty quickly. And then what we did was we would announce every few weeks, we would announce like 4 more bands and 4 more bands. And so people were just like, oh my God, this is amazing, you know. So the way in which we rolled it out was, it wasn't intentional. We were just kind of doing it, and it ended up being this really cool deal where it was just building momentum.
Right.
And
That's pretty wild, like snowball effect, you know.
it really was. Yeah.
But at that point, did you have Sloss Furnace locked in for the 3 days, or for the original 2020 dates that you guys had, not knowing how many days or how many bands you ultimately were going to have?
Yeah, we locked it in for.
Now, what's that even like? How do you lock in dates for Sloss Furnace? Just call them up. Hey, I want to have an event.
Yeah, so it was really strange. I just started hitting them up, asking about doing this punk rock festival, you know, at Sloss. And at this point in time, they had kind of stopped doing live events for a while, unless it was like a wedding or something like that.
Well, not to interrupt, but bring me into the timeline of Sloss Fest that went on for about 3 years there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they just bellied up, basically. And I heard rumors that it was because of, you know, inclement weather, and they're not able to, you know, we get a lot of rain in Alabama during the summer. So
Yeah, we do.
was that going on at the time that you guys were trying to plan a festival?
It had already ended. Its
Okay.
run, yeah. And so,
Did that have any effect on them accepting you guys to try to do
Oh
another
yeah,
one?
were they kind of wary of?
Like,
oh,
nah, I
here
don't know if we
go.
want to do another music festival. Or maybe
yeah,
not.
I think so. I think they were like, okay, you know, we're going to do this a lot differently than we did with the Sloss Fest, just because I think there were some communication issues. I think that there was some poor planning in terms of weather, you know, plans and those types of things. I think those guys put on an amazing festival.
Oh, yeah, we
It's-
went. It was awesome.
It's great, but I think the timing, the time of year, and then
Brutally hot.
yeah, and then the lack of communication when it started storming really just ended that festival. And so so the guys at Sloss Furnace were like, okay, we need to talk about all these details. And but then in the middle of but they were like, okay, we'll let you book these 3 dates, but we also have Sloss Fright Furnace. And I was like, well, and they set up that same weekend that you guys are. I was like, well, we're going to need that. We can't have somebody setting up a haunted house or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And so we had to work with them and figure that out. But they gave us the dates, so we were good. Thankfully, we didn't have to pay a deposit because we had $0. And so that was locked.
You just have
in.
an idea, you can book Sloss Furnace. That's it.
Hey, we're going to book it.
Go ahead and give me 3 days.
Yeah,
too.
give me 3 days. We're this legit company. We've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. Yeah, we've done this 4 times already. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're really like
4 times in 20 years.
Yeah,
this
it's not
works.
bad.
Oh
I
my
have
God.
no idea.
Yeah.
And but thankfully we didn't have to pay a deposit. And but yeah, so locking that in was instrumental because Sloss, I mean, you can't have Furnace Fest anywhere else other than Sloss Furnace.
Right.
It's one of the coolest music venues I think in the country, but as well, it's just from a nostalgic standpoint.
Sure.
You know, you just can't have Furnace Fest in a
Furnace
field.
Fest at, Regents Field. Yeah.
Regents Field, or just in the middle of a field somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we started rolling those bands out. Thankfully, started selling tickets, so we got some money in to start paying these deposits and start thinking about things like insurance and
Think about all that stuff.
oh my gosh,
Dude.
yeah,
So you said Beloved was the first band that was
First
kind of
band.
like, that was the catalyst to
Yeah.
kind of get the momentum going. These other bands, how do you, I mean, you look at the lineup now for the 3 days. You've got Under Oath, Taking Back Sunday, Thursday,
Yeah.
a band I didn't even know was even still together. A lot of
Yeah.
these bands, I think, I didn't know were even still playing.
yeah.
how do you get in touch with this many bands and get everything scheduled and just the legit? Do they contact you? Do you have a team of people reaching out like, oh, this band would be rad, or oh, this band would be rad?
It's a reputation too, just because Furnace was so successful back then.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for me personally, I didn't know until you told me just a minute ago that Furnace Fest happened in the early 2000s. I thought this was just kind of like a new thing.
Yeah.
Like, Furnace Fest. Okay, this is sick. Like,
yep. Yeah, no, I think it was a little of both. And so Chad still had some really strong relationships with a lot of these guys.
Okay.
And so he was making contact with them as well. Ryan Luther, one of our partners, and he had a lot of relationships with bands too, because in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was booking shows in Knoxville and Nashville, and he also lived in Florida for a time. So he was booking a lot of these DIY, hardcore, and punk shows. And so he had a lot of these relationships as well. And so they just started reaching out to agents and started locking some of these bands up. But as well, Beloved being the catalyst really,
kind of legitimized it.
Legitimized it, but as well, some other bands were thinking, okay, yeah, Beloved, yeah,
they're getting back together. We could show up.
We can do this. Or they were like, hey, we would love to play that because there's some really cool bands that they've kind of booked. And so yeah, it's kind of a collection of both. A lot of them started contacting us because of the lineup that we were able to put together. But then it was us just.
Well, I guess there's a certain point when it peaks, and then it's like the thing. It's like, well, dude, have you heard of Furnace Fest? We got to play. You got like Every Time I Die. You got Andrew WK. You got Kill Switch Engage. I mean, some of these bands are like mega huge. And, as well as a lot of bands that I was like surprised they were even still together, or bands I hadn't even thought about or listened to in years.
Yeah. So I mean, there were a handful of bands that we were like, okay, we can't have Furnace Fest if we don't book these bands. Andrew WK being one. I don't know if you've pulled up Andrew WK's set.
They're pretty wild.
It's
Everybody
insane.
Storms the stage. And all that
Yeah,
stuff.
so actually the storming of the stage at Andrew WK show started at Furnace Fest.
Really?
Yeah.
So did he play, or do you guys have bands from the original Furnace Fest that are coming back?
A lot of these bands have played at least 1 year of Furnace Fest. And so that was kind of one of the things too. We was like, we want to get a lot of these bands who played at Furnace Fest on this bill. And then we want to expose people to a lot of newer bands as well. And so, but Andrew WK was one of them. Stretch Armstrong was definitely one of them. They played every year. Beloved was one of those. It was really important for some people that Under Oath play and some other bands like that. And so we just started making a list of bands that were like, all right, these are the bands we got to go after. And once the first 2 or 3 dominoes fell, it was just, it was pretty easy.
It's a little easier.
A little easier. Yeah. It's very expensive these days. I think Chad spent anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 putting these festivals on each year. Never made a dime off these things. Actually lost money a few times, and
just the love of doing it. I guess,
and so it's definitely cost way more than that to put a music festival on today. So,
dude, the logistics alone just sound like a nightmare.
We pay that. We pay more than that just in our insurance premium. So it's crazy. Yeah.
So I understand that you guys are going to have 3 stages.
Yeah.
Some of the other festivals have more than that. And I've been to Bonnaroo over in Tennessee. That was a lifetime ago. But one of the things I noticed was a lot of my favorite bands kind of all seem to play at the same time, which is always such a drag. Yeah. And I know Bonnaroo obviously has like a dozen or more stages. There's stages everywhere you go. Did you guys run into any issues, trying to schedule bands or like do you have overlap with different bands? Like
that's got to be hard too, depending who plays.
Dude. It's one of the most difficult things. Thankfully, I have nothing to do with it. So
okay, well you got these, Jonathan.
Yeah, poor Ryan.
You don't get any of the backlash.
I don't.
I gotta choose between August Burns Red and Boy Sets Fire.
Yeah, and Ryan knows that he's going to take a beating once we go live. And that's one of the. I'll be honest with you. That's one of the reasons why we're not announcing set times until a couple of weeks out. It's because we know that we're going to disappoint a lot of people. And I'll tell you this, my wife and I are so disappointed on Sunday because like the 5 bands that we're like, we have to see. 2 of them are playing at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I told Courtney, and she was like, "Are you kidding me? You can't do anything about this, Johnny?" I was like,
you're the dude. Come on, you should be the one to fix it.
I said, I tried. I literally tried. And a lot of it has to do with band schedules when they're flying in, if they're flying in, where they need to be on the bill because of what size band they are. And so there's a lot of that goes into play. And so we just, unfortunately, the two of the top 4 bands that we want to see on Sunday are playing at the same time. So I was like, well, we'll record it and watch it,
Well, I know one of the questions, I understand you guys did a Q&A online not too long ago, maybe a week ago or a couple of days ago. One of the big things that's on everybody's mind with the new Delta variant breaking out, how are you guys handling the COVID precautions? And at the time of this recording, what are you guys doing as far as are you guys requiring vaccination passes or how's that working?
So, we announced everything yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was quite the day. And so for the past 3 years, we've been kind of like the friendly music festival where Chad and I and Ryan and Mike have been very accessible to everybody. We've been personally handling all the emails and Facebook messages that we could. We have a lady that works with us too doing that, but we're very accessible, and everything for the most part has been very, very positive. And up until yesterday, when we announced our COVID protocols, and so we thought it was best that in order to be able to do this festival and do it safely, that we were going to ask you to provide a negative COVID test and or a vaccination card. And so, and thankfully, we're working with a company too that's going to be able to offer rapid testing on site.
So even if somebody shows up, it's like, I left my paperwork.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's about as fair as you can be.
I think so.
Just prove to us you don't have COVID,
Yep.
and we'll let you in.
Right.
It's really not that hard.
Yeah. But as well, I think the complication that we have is there is a law that was passed in July by the state of Alabama, making it illegal for any businesses to require
The pass or whatever.
they call it a COVID passport,
Okay.
or a vaccination passport. And so we literally had to consult with attorneys and talk to medical professionals. And we did our due diligence, we did our homework, and we made sure that the protocols that we put in place were, within the bounds of the law. However, some people don't seem to think that it is, and so we're kind of running into that as well. AL.com just ran an article about a few hours ago, and it was a good article. Mary did a great job with it, but we know that there's going to be some significant backlash from this. But thankfully, the requirements for us is a negative COVID test, and if you have been vaccinated, then you don't have to provide a negative COVID test. We just ask that you show us that you've been vaccinated. So by giving options, we think that we fall within the, within the law. But we'll see. We'll see what the Attorney General says. We'll see what, we're
still, a month away, I guess, at this point?
Yeah, we're
close
5
to
weeks away. And so I'm a little nervous that
it's getting close.
Yeah. So hopefully, a politician that, wants to get his name out there, doesn't make a big deal about it and think that I'm going to go after these folks. But
these punk kids and the music.
Yeah. And so, but we're I will say this, 95% of all the comments and messages and everything online has been positive. Unfortunately, we do live in a world where that loud minority.
Sure, man. You get 100 good comments. Man, we're so psyched, and you get that one negative Nancy, and that's just that's the one that stings the worst.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was telling some guys today. I was like, I think the one that shocked me the most was this lady who ended her, I mean, just diatribe, and then ended it with "fuck you, commies." And so I went.
You're communist now. Okay.
Yeah, and so I went to her profile, and the first thing on her profile was Jesus follower, and I was like, okay, man. Wow, I've never been called a fucking commie, by Jesus follower. I just like, wow, that's a weird dichotomy there, but okay. And so we've been getting a lot of that, but we don't let the 5% really overshadow the 95 that is like, thank you. We're super excited about this. And as well, it gives us the ability to have this music festival. Mm-hmm. It gives us the ability to do so. I mean, all of us who are working in some way, shape, or form in the music industry just wants to get back to some form of normalcy. We want to get these stage hands, these production companies, the artists, these music venues. We want to give all of them the ability to do what they love to do and make a living for themselves and their families. And the only way that we can do that is by putting some of these type of procedures and protocols in place. And that's what we're doing. We want to have a great, safe event. We want these people back to work. And unfortunately, in this day and time, we're just having to ask that you, like you said, prove that you don't have COVID.
Yeah.
So,
well, I can't imagine the stress along with everything else, trying to plan a gigantic music festival like this. And you kind of hinted on this earlier, but tell me, some of these bands I've never heard of, others I have. How do you guys decide the lineup and kind of who gets preference? Because we have 3 stages. Yep. So what is the process of like deciding like, okay, these guys are going to play, they're going to be like our headliners versus some of these other guys that we're going to have to play on this day or at this time. Shout out to my friend Ryan. He had a question about his boys Turnstile. He's a big fan of them. And he's like, God, why are they not showing them any respect? And they've got these other butthole bands ahead of them. And, so it's kind of funny. But I think it just alludes to a larger question that maybe some people have when they see these festivals is like, and for anybody listening who feels like their favorite band kind of got the shaft.
Yep.
What does that process look like as far as deciding the overall schedule for the festival? Yeah,
so I think that we've asked close to 350 bands to, so we've asked a lot of bands. And this is basically what we've ended up with, which we think is an amazing lineup.
Sure.
If you are into 90s, early 2000s punk and hardcore, you love this music festival. But as well, there are new bands like Turnstile. Turnstile is in my top 5 of bands that I want to see.
You going to jump on stage?
I'll be on stage, absolutely.
Their shows, man, they are
wild.
Yeah.
And so I am so excited. My wife's so excited to see those guys. I mean, this new album they just put out is one of the most interesting, compelling, creative albums out there. I think they're the they're the new band that's kind of carving a new sound into hardcore and punk rock and kind of that. They just bridge so many different genres. Their shows are so amazing. And so I think that they're that kind of new band that's really creating some significant waves in the industry. So I'm really excited to see those guys. But a lot of it has to do with, of course, and
maybe being naive, you see a name on a poster like that, and they got a small font, and you see some other bands with a bigger font. But does that really hold any weight as far as like
for our
importance
poster?
or play?
It does not. Our poster is, our headliners are at the top, but then all the bands are in alphabetical order.
Okay.
So just because Turnstile is second to the last on Sunday doesn't mean that they're going to be playing like
there you go.
At noon.
Sure.
They have a great slot, and they're going to put on an amazing show. So they do have a great slot, and we're definitely not dissing those guys.
No, not to pick on that one band.
Yeah. So Ryan, it's Ryan, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chad and I are super stoked to see that band and a few other ones on Sunday, so that they're going to have a great they're going to have a great slot.
But as far as the different stages go, what does that look like as far as like what stages, what bands play on what stages?
Yeah.
Or is it just a free for all? No stage is better than the other, or maybe there's like at some of the festivals there's a very clear main stage versus some of the smaller side stages.
Yeah, and so the way in which we've basically set it up is of course the bigger bands, the more popular bands, the ones that have the most listens to on Spotify, that of course they're going to have the better slots in the evening, and we just kind of work our way down. But as well, we do factor in because this is a very much a nostalgic music festival, and so some of those key bands in the late 90s, early 2000s do have really good spots as well. And I think
they paid their dues. That's fair.
They've paid their dues, but also, so like a Stretch Armstrong reunion has probably locked in so many people to come to this festival. We've sold tickets in 22 different countries. Yeah, and all 50 states. Crazy. So it's really cool. But we have a main stage, and that's going to be out in the field. So if you went to Sloss Fest, they had the two main stages.
Okay, so that's that big one.
But we have one main stage, and we're kind of cutting that field off so that it'll be a little bit more intimate. We're not going to have 25,000 people there. Like,
what numbers do you expect?
We haven't publicly said, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we are anticipating anywhere between 10 and 12,000 people a day.
Wow.
Okay. So we want it to be a little bit more intimate on the main stage. So when Under Oath's playing and Kill Switch Engage and Taking Back Sunday's playing, we want it to be an intimate thing. People they can socially distance if they want to at the main stage, but the band's going to look out and see a nice crowd of people.
Yeah.
So that's our main stage. We have the Shed stage, and that's kind of
that's the classic stage.
That's the
every
classic
show we've ever seen.
Historic, Sloss Fest stage. And so
to me, that's my favorite with the sloping floors. Like there's no bad seat in the house.
There's no bad seat in the house, awesome. And it's amazing. That's where a lot of our reunion bands are playing.
Okay.
And so our super influential, hardcore bands that are getting back together, that's where they're going to be playing. I couldn't imagine seeing Stretch Armstrong on another stage, and they've got to play on that stage. And even Andrew WK. Andrew WK is a big name.
That'll be epic.
we have to have Andrew WK on the Shed stage. But then we have a pond stage as well. So the pond stage, of course, is out by the spray pond. But it actually can hold just as many people as the Shed stage out there. And so the pond stage is kind of more of our indie rock, emo stage. I mean, there are some heavy bands that are playing there, but most of it's going to be like the Me Without You.
Mayday Parade will be out there.
Mayday Parade will be on main stage, but it'll be Me Without You. It'll be Copeland and those types of bands, great bands. And
Katie, she just looked at the lineup like 2 or 3 days ago. I was like, yeah, we're going to have Johnny from, Furnace Fest on, talk music. So she pulled it up. She was like, oh my God, Copeland, Me Without You. Yeah. Like, Me Without You, I think that's the only other show they have on their schedule, man. It's crazy.
They're done after this.
Yeah, man.
And so
anyway, she was tripping out. She was like, why didn't you tell me about this?
Yeah, it's going to be great. So that's how the stages are set up. Main stage is for our larger bands. Shed stage is kind of more that the history bands, the reunion bands, and a lot of our hardcore bands are playing there. Pond stage is going to be more of the kind of emo indie rock bands.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what other amenities will you guys be trying to offer there? I know sometimes there's little cooling stations or places you can get out of the sun. And being in September, it's not going to be as hot.
Yeah.
I just have vivid memories of Sloss Fest in the middle of July. Dying, dude. Yeah. I was like, I will go anywhere to get out of this heat.
Yeah.
Any other accommodations that people can look forward to, or food vendors or anything like that?
Yeah. So we have 20 different food vendors, and all different types of food, vegetarian, vegan, and everything in between. So, and some great food vendors. Of course, we have Tito's is a big sponsor of ours. Trim Tab as well.
Okay.
So we're super stoked to work with those guys. And we have a really special project that we're working on in conjunction with those guys that we're going to be announcing pretty soon.
Okay.
And it's going to be really cool. I mean, you can just put 2 and 2 together. They're a brewery, we're a music festival. So we're really excited about that. So we'll have great drinks, great beer, but as well, we'll have cooling stations and things like that. Some of our sponsors are coming and setting up activations and stuff like that. So, they'll be getting swag and stuff from everybody from Tito's to Trim Tab to, I don't know, there's quite a few of them. So we're excited about that. But the main amenity is definitely going to be the food, because it's really good stuff. We were very selective in what food vendors we brought on. And so the food's going to be great. Of course, the drinks and those types of things are going to be great, because we're working on some really specialty things, whether it be, with Tito's doing some special stuff, Trim Tap doing some special stuff. We're still working on our a whiskey sponsor as well. And then we'll have cooling stations and those types of things.
So look forward to the Furnace Fest frozen margarita.
Or something. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Dude, well, that's cool, man. I know that just looking at the lineup and checking your social media and stuff, there's also, so you've got the Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
That's all taking place at Sloss.
Yep.
Or, at Sloss. But there's also, like, I think you're working with Iron City, or somehow Iron City is kind of in conjunction, and they're going to have bands that are playing.
Yeah.
Is that on Thursday, or is that also on Friday? Or is it like a pre-party thing?
Yeah, it's a pre-party, and all of our pre-parties are on Thursday night. And so we actually there's 4 that we know of that are happening, 2 that we directly have involvement with. So the first one that we announced was the intimate show at Seasick Records.
See, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and it's intimate showing, or intimate show with Zayo, Walls of Jericho, and Shah Halud. So these are 3 huge hardcore bands,
dude. Yeah, and so Seasick's not that big.
No, I mean we sold 180 tickets.
So that's sold out. I guess.
It's sold out. It's sold out in
probably
a
a second.
Yeah. And I was talking to Dan. I was like, this record store is not going to be the same after the show.
They're
He's
going
like,
to move furniture,
man, I can't wait.
Get product.
He's all for it.
Yeah, he's all for it.
Rip the walls down.
Yeah, he's excited. Of course, all the records and everything will be moved out.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, that one's a really exciting one that I'll be at. And then we have one as well at Iron City, and so it's kind of a big kickoff party for us. It's Norma Jean.
Norma Jean, dude.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
I remember getting their album for Christmas when I was in high school.
Do you remember which one?
It was the one with No.
Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child.
That one.
Yeah.
That's the one that has Me Without You on one of the songs.
That was it. Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child.
Yeah, that was
was one of the
breakthrough
best.
album.
It was. It really
awesome.
was. It was amazing. Again, as one of those albums from start to finish, that was amazing. And so, but Norma Jean's playing another band called Remembering Never, Drowning Man, Sleeping by the Riverside, and Across 5 Aprils. And so Remembering Never and Drowning Man, I don't know much about them, to be honest with you, but
it's hard to know everything about all these bands. The Bled, dude, The Bled.
The Bled's going to be insane.
That's crazy,
sick.
dude.
I didn't sick.
Like I said, I didn't even know some of these bands were even still. It's crazy. Anyways.
Yeah. So Sleeping by the Riverside is one of the bands that I'm super stoked to see. They were this hardcore band from Florida. They put out maybe one album, and that was, they were kind of a one and done deal, but the album was, again, pretty amazing. And then there is another pre-party event at Saturn.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's called the Label Fest. So the guys with the Labeled podcast, they're also the guys in the band Emery. And so they are kind of heading this up, but
we're gonna do our own pre-party.
Yeah, and so we're working with them. We're just basically supporting them as they plan it. We were at this point where we're at our wits' end. We're like our bandwidth that we have no more.
I was about to say, do you have bands that were trying to get in that you had to put the cap and you're like, dude, we can't have any more unless we start at like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Like we can't.
Yeah.
Can't have any more bands.
That's a tough call to make.
And you have some killer band that you love call and they're like, oh, we're available that weekend. He's like, dude,
Yeah.
we can't fit them in, man. There's no
It's
way.
nuts. The show at Saturn, though, is going to be pretty cool. I mean, it's Emory, Hopes Fall, Ass Cities Burn, Terminal, and then they're doing like an emo night, so they're going to be going all night.
Sure.
And so that should be a really cool show. And then there's one at the Firehouse.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. I've
So,
seen some bands play there.
Judas Cradle is playing that show. Judas Cradle and a few more bands that I don't.
Is this the same Firehouse in Avondale?
Yeah.
They're still doing shows?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
They come and go.
They come and go.
come and go, and I think they've kind of turned into more of this kind of artsy.
They're doing like a
co-op
school
thing, yeah.
co-op learning center thing.
And so I don't necessarily know if they're doing a lot of shows, but they're doing this. So
That
it's
used to be the spot, man.
it's Die Young, All In, Judas,
All In?
yeah, All In,
Whoa.
and Judas Cradle, and maybe a couple of other ones too. So that's gonna be a crazy show.
All In. They're the hometown heroes right there.
yeah.
Wow, that's
So-
crazy.
Era's playing. That's right.
They always do a comeback, though. They're
Yeah.
like always like, oh, we'll play one show, but it's like, yeah, I'll see you again in like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to do one more?
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, we've got a couple. So like Haste is doing has gotten back together and is playing as well. So they're a really well known Birmingham band. Unwed Sailor. So Dave is a part of Unwed Sailor. Then Gideon, I know, has Birmingham ties. Actually, they have McCullough ties where I grew up out. in
Yeah,
the
we got a
country.
poster
right
right
over
over
your
there.
Oh, yeah.
We were looking at the list and we were like, dude, Gideon's playing.
That's
crazy.
That's old right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's major throwback.
Yeah.
But they like Alabama hardcore is so
Weird.
mad.
It is.
Mad.
Yeah, like you would go to shows to like get in fights. And
Yeah.
I know that was a big thing for at least back in the day. Gideon would just stop playing shows here. 'Cause It's like you ruin the shows. There's fights. We have to stop the sets. People get kicked out. Like
Yep.
you ruin the fun.
Yep.
So I remember for a long time Gideon didn't play here.
Yeah.
And it sucked because it's like, man, they're like the boys. It's hometown.
Yeah.
They come
they're-
home.
They're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Era's playing as well.
Era too.
yeah.
Their new album is so good,
Yes.
and I'm so stoked to see those guys. But you're right, man. It's interesting if we want to get in that little bit of a conversation of the kind of hardcore punk rock scene. So I was a '90s kid. I loved like '90s punk rock and hardcore. As it's kind of in the 2000s when things started kind of moving towards like new metal and stuff like that, I didn't really. There were a few bands that I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but it just wasn't my thing. And so, but the punk and hardcore scene in Birmingham has, for me, it was amazing for the longest. And because there were clubs like Slacker 66 that was really kind of pioneering this idea of tolerance. It's funny that, a lot of punk rockers and hardcore kids talk about tolerance, but at the end of the day, they're not that very tolerant. And which speaks to your point when they're always trying to kill each other at shows. And really at the end of the day, it's just because they disagree with each other, whether it be on religion, whether it be on style of music or anything else. But and Chad was instrumental in kind of pioneering this idea that Caption. Okay, that's you do a little bit of research on Caption. Who those dudes are dear friends of mine, but not Christian at all, and sometimes adamantly opposed to it, vocally opposed to it. And say another Christian hardcore band could play at Slacker 66 on the same night, and for the most part things would be fine. There were always guys out there that were trying to just pick on kids
Or prove a point.
Or prove a point. But for the most part, there was this level of tolerance that was really cool.
Mutual respect. to some
Mutual
degree,
respect.
yeah.
And then, but yeah, dude, I specifically remember there's kind of a moment where a lot of that started changing. And so it did become super hostile at times. And I was just like, man, this I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not what punk rock's about. This isn't what hardcore is about, and it really put a bad taste, not only in my mouth, but I know a lot of I don't consider myself one of the old guys, but I'm 41. Some of the older guys that were like, I'd just rather not. I'd rather not go to a show and expose myself to that. So
same for us. You know, it was. Of course, when I went to shows, it was they were always in churches. We didn't. I mean, Firehouse was like the last venue that I remember us having.
This is post Cave 9, I guess.
Well, I wasn't involved with.
You're about 4 years younger than me. I'm 33.
So we had like the Firehouse in Zydeco, but everywhere else was like churches.
Yeah.
And churches would immediately put a stop to it if there were fights. It's like, no, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, great, guys. You close this venue. Now what?
Yeah. It was interesting because, we had a lot of church venues as well. Things got wild at a lot of these churches. But, man, we had so many great venues. There was Big Dan's. There was Cave 9 came, after them. The Boiler Room. I saw Hot Water Music and the Misfits at the Boiler Room, which was crazy.
Wow, really?
They didn't play together, separate shows, but then you had Slacker 66, and then there was this one Christian like venue called Crush Warehouse, and it was in a warehouse.
Crush Warehouse.
Yeah, it was in a warehouse down in Irondale. It's this beat up warehouse building. It had no AC, no heat. And the guy, what was his name? I can't remember. Derek. Oh, it was Derek. And he was booking all these shows, and it was literally $5 and 2 cans of food, and you would go in and see. My first hardcore show, which was POD in
really?
1990.
What? POD, man.
POD in
yeah,
1996 or 7.
Oh, dude. That was like the first CD I think I remember owning, that and like a Linkin Park album or something.
Yeah. So,
POD, dude. Yeah.
Shout out Dad.
Yeah, man.
Dad bought you that?
Yeah, man.
Dude, Dad's awesome.
Yeah, he's rad. He was like, I want to give them something they can rock out to, but I want it to be
it's not
something I can give to a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old.
Right.
And so POD fit that bill perfectly.
They did, man, and they put on a great show.
Man.
They put on a great show, but it was Crush Warehouse, and so a lot of the Christian bands that came through were playing at this venue, and but we had so many cool venues, and it kind of for all different walks of life, but saw so many great bands. So many great bands came through, especially in the '90s. In early 2000s. But yeah, unfortunately, there's just not that many DIY venues in Birmingham anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys need to open one up.
Yeah, we got a little bit of room down here. Temple solo acts.
Tim's talked about doing it at our warehouse.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Running a
I'm
venue,
like you.
man.
I was kind of left with a bad taste in my mouth. It's like, I don't want a bunch of kids in here. It's just going to destroy my building.
Everything. Yeah.
So kind of hesitant on that.
Well, the cool thing is like,
I mean, how hard would it be to run a venue? Just keeping the place from getting destroyed, I guess. Or it depends on the type of music. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's especially if it's a DIY venue and there's not like alcohol being sold or those types of things. It's an all age venue. I mean, it's always a pain, but like it can be done. But also, I mean, I think the people treat the space I don't know. There's an atmosphere, and if they go in and there's just hostility all the time, then that's how they're going to respond. But if there is this kind of openness and tolerance and acceptance of different, I mean, all that happens. It happens at the front, It happens through conversation. It happens through that. So it's difficult, but it's definitely something that's taught. It's something that's talked about. And so that's something that we constantly do with Furnace Fest. And we've said it 1,000 times that this is a festival for any and every band, no matter what your beliefs are. I mean, there were Christian bands that played Furnace Fest in the early 2000s. And there were not Christian bands. There were bands that would actually tear the Bible up on stage just to
set it on fire.
Yeah, and be antagonistic. And but the great thing is that the table that we're setting for this festival is a pretty wide table, and it doesn't matter what you believe. You're welcome at this table. The only thing that we ask is that there be this kind of mutual respect for one another.
Sure.
That's not to mean you can't express yourself and your ideas and your beliefs on stage.
Bite the heads off bats.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of that. You can do that stuff, and that would be killer.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, the only thing that we ask is there be some mutual respect, and we lost that for a time, definitely in the scene. But hopefully, we're getting that back. Hopefully.
So how has it been working with the city of Birmingham as far as
Yeah.
securing permits to have loud music? And is there like just on my own curiosity, we talked about trying to squeeze in as many bands as you could. What was your window? I mean, was there a certain time that you could start music and you have to end music each day?
Yeah, so working with the city's been fine. There was a significant amount of time where they were not granting permits for concerts and music festivals or anything like that. So we started getting pretty nervous. Like, is Woodfin going to lift the ban on live music?
You've already got the thing secured, and you said it was originally supposed to happen in 2020 and then got postponed.
Yeah. And so, but we had not worked on our permitting with the city. And so, but we intentionally did that as well. We wanted to wait for a while to hopefully let things settle down. Well, thankfully, I can't remember exactly when, but it was a few months ago. It was around the time that the mask mandate was lifted in Birmingham. We approached the city. Don Lupo is a dear friend of mine. He's been a huge supporter of us. First met with him. Hey, how's this going to go over? He's like, it's fine. I've already talked to the mayor. As soon as the mask mandate's lifted, he's going to start issuing permits. He's excited about this event, which I thought was hilarious. And so they gave us a permit. And but yes, we have to be done at 11 o'clock. And so they're, so yeah, you can play all the way up to 11. We're starting at noon, but we have to be cut off at 11. So
Cool.
City's been good to work with, though, man.
Well, you make it sound easy, man. We
It's
put
a
together
piece
a
of
music-
cake.
This is
Guys,
a cake.
it's
dude.
a piece of
like
cake.
Nothing.
It's so
COVID caused
easy.
a few hiccups, but yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah. All right.
No, it's been a wild journey, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, for real. I mean, it's been super stressful, but man, I've enjoyed every moment. I've learned a lot too.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you own some hair salons. I think you're involved, or you're the owner of Wheelhouse
Yep.
Salon.
Yep.
Not to be confused with Wheelhouse Academy, the workout gym,
Yep.
the CrossFit Plex or whatever.
Yeah, they're great.
How did you, besides having friends in the music industry, did you ever work in
No.
any capacity in the music industry?
No, this is kind of the first time for me. But yeah, I mean, I've been a serial entrepreneur since I can remember. My wife and I own 3 hair salons. One's in Birmingham, one's in Huntsville, and one's in Austin, Texas.
Why hair salons? Did you ever cut hair?
No, my
what?
wife does.
Okay.
And so she started cutting hair when she was 16, in her basement. She was, bleaching our hair, cutting our hair, dyeing it green and
Sure,
purple
yeah.
and red, doing all that. And she just has always loved doing hair. So she tried college for a semester and was like, this isn't for me. I want to do hair. And so she dropped out and went to cosmetology school. And she's incredible. She's super talented. And about 7.5, 8 years ago, we kind of got to the point in our lives where it was time. It was time for us to open a salon, and she have her own salon because she wanted to continue to grow her career and working for somebody, she just couldn't. She had hit that ceiling, and there was no way that she was going to be able to push through it. So we opened Wheelhouse, and it's grown significantly.
Is that the downtown location?
We opened in Homewood.
Homewood, okay.
Yeah, so we had 4 locations pre-COVID, and COVID caused us to consolidate our Birmingham market, and so we consolidated to downtown because it was our bigger salon. But as well, I own
It's a nice space there. That's
it's
awesome.
a great spot, man, and it's beautiful. But I own the building in Homewood, so it made sense for us to move it all downtown because I'm leasing that and then rent that space out. Because if I had tried to break my lease in Birmingham, then I'd have gotten some legal issues that I just didn't want to. But as well, it's a great space. It's a good part of town. And it was a bigger location, and we could just easily move those stylists there. So we closed that one down, but we're still kicking in Austin and Huntsville and downtown, and things finally are going well for us. So yeah, I mean, it's hair salons for me. It's other things too. We've got real estate businesses, and I own an ice cream shop. And
What?
yeah,
Really?
yeah, and
You're a busy guy, man. Golly.
yeah. Well, me and 15 other friends of mine opened an ice cream shop in West Homewood. So
What's the name of that?
it's called Neighbors.
Neighbors.
And,
Okay.
and
Usually I'm up to speed on my ice cream shops. I
Yeah.
haven't heard of that place.
Well,
check it out.
It's a cool concept. Actually, myself and a dear friend of mine, Michael Eady, are primary owners of Neighbors. But we decided to take a third of equity and sell it to 13 families in the neighborhood, and just sell a small percentage of them, so the neighborhood would have significant buy-in to this business that adds value to this little neighborhood, West Homewood. But as well, we wanted to create a business that's never really been done, where there are a large chunk of people within the community own this business, so they have ownership in it. They have buy-in. They're committed to the success of it, and so it's been a really cool concept.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah, it's awesome, and so we love that. So ice cream, and then
Neighbors Ice Cream. I'll check you guys out. That's cool.
yeah. So and there's some other things that I do, but I don't want to bore you with all that.
Sure. Well, dude, the music thing, I tip my hat to you for even attempting to try to pull off a festival of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Anything else that we should know about? You said you're partnering with Trim Tab and got some things in the works.
Yeah.
I want to know, because before we started this podcast,
Yeah.
Homeboy was talking about opening up a skate park in Hoover.
Yeah.
I would like
yeah.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
How
dude,
did that come
please.
Dude, we need more skate parks, man. And I
Yes,
think
we do.
Hoover definitely has the infrastructure to support it. You know?
Yeah, it's a great story. So my son started getting into skating. Courtney and I have always loved skateboarding, and so when he started getting interested, it was like, man, this is cool, you know. And but two, being just frustrated that the lack of places to skate in Birmingham, and so when we moved back to Hoover, I don't know what got me thinking, but I was just like, at all places, Hoover needs a skate park, because Hoover is one of the most diverse cities in the state of Alabama. And I knew that there was a significant group of kids that skateboarded in Hoover. And a lot of them just don't have a place to go. And so I would see them out skating in all these different places. And so I was like, well, I know a few of the city councilmen, and so I just started hitting them up. I was like, what are the chances of Hoover donating land to build a skate park? And one of them told me, is like, yeah, slim to none. And I was like, okay, thanks. I love a challenge. I love a good challenge. So anyway.
Not here, buddy.
Yeah. Make a long story short, I literally started emailing and calling every city councilman, the mayor, the Parks and Rec Board, and the guys at the Finley Center, which is the Hoover Met Complex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just introducing myself, just talking to them a little bit about skateboarding and why it would bring value to the city of Hoover. Finally, I got in touch with the right person. He was like, you know what? I want you to come present this to the Parks and Recs Board. And this was in October of last year, 2020. And so I made this whole like PowerPoint presentation, you know, and I go up to their meeting
So
one
you're
night.
Dead serious about doing this.
Serious.
This is crazy.
Bro,
Okay.
dead serious. And so I start passing this presentation out. I printed it out for everybody, to all these people. And they were like, oh my gosh, I thought this kid was just going to come up here and talk about skateboarding and we were just going to go, okay,
Yeah,
whatever, and move on. So, I mean, I had, in this presentation, I had talked about why a skate park would be great for the city of Hoover. And I would also kind of dispel, you know, I kind of set their mind at ease about
some of the urban myths. I
Yeah,
guess.
some of the urban myths that it's the wrong crowd and that it's super dangerous and there's just a high risk, all these different things. So I went through with statistics, with data, and saying, okay, this is why a lot of these preconceived ideas that you have about skateboarders just doesn't hold water. And even the legal side of things. So they were like, well, we think we have some type of liability legally. I said, no. You absolutely don't. There's a law on the books in the state of Alabama that relieves all cities of any responsibility for people who get injured doing any type of extreme sports. And then I also pointed out to there, you have a mountain bike trail, down Stadium Trace Parkway. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, and to be honest with you, skateboarding is safer than playing football, basketball. And here are the stats to show. There was an article posted in some medical journal from the St. Jude Hospital, and talking about skateboarding and how it was safer for kids to do than play football and basketball. And so I started sharing all these stats. And I was like, should we not play basketball or football? Absolutely not. These are great sports. Kids need to be involved in them. But they also need different options. For kids who don't necessarily fit the traditional model of sports, why can't the most diverse city in the state offer them an option? And then I had Google Earthed 3 spots at the Finley Center that I thought a skate park would go great at. And it was just 3 open plots of land. And so I was like, hey guys, if you would just turn to the last page, here are 3 different spots. But also what I did is I had contacted a skate build firm that's based out of California. And I said, would you be willing to help design in some type of CAD software, design a skate park and plop it into this little plot of land? They were like, absolutely, man. And so I had already had this skate park designed, which is not the design that we're going with.
Just
but
something to put there,
they could see, and it was really cool. And they were the guy who actually runs the Finley Center. He's a great dude. He's like, actually, this spot that you have marked off right here works perfect. And I was like, that's the spot we want.
Yeah.
And so it went to the city council. The Park and Rec Board and the City Council agreed to donate that plot of land that's at the Finley Center for us to build a skate park. And so it took a while for us to work things out legally. I had to form a nonprofit, which I did. Also, we had to think through, like, how's it going to be managed, those types of things. Of course, they were thinking, okay, well, we need to put a fence up and we need to have a monitor there. And I said, look, I understand that, and we will be willing to compromise with you on a lot of these things, but I do think that that's kind of an old way of looking at these things. I can assure you that these kids are going to take care of this park. They're going to be grateful for it. Skateboarding's a lot different than what you think it is, and so I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to come together on some of those things. But so they have agreed to donate the land. We've got things worked out from a legal standpoint. We've built our website. It was completed today.
What?
Which is super cool.
Oh, that's rad. You're sharing it with us.
Yeah, man. Today
we
we literally have not went public with it. Only a few people know. And so at this point in time, I'm gathering basically a group of people who are going to help make this thing a success. And so we're going to launch it hopefully in the next few days. We're going to start raising funds. The one caveat here is that Hoover said that we will provide the land and all the services. We're going to provide you lighting, so it's going to be lit. We're going to trash removal, restrooms, all that stuff. We'll provide that. You're going to have to find out how to pay for it.
How to pay for the park.
How to pay for the park. And I was like, easy,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I was like, not easy, because we're going to have to raise $500,000. But I'm committed to knock on every door and visit every business in Hoover and maybe other businesses that are friendly to skateboarding and ask them to donate to this. And so it's gonna be super rad. One of the cool things that I'm really proud of is that we're gonna have a section built into this skate park that is going to be a portion of this skate park is going to be accessible for those for kids and adults who are handicapped. Okay. And so we're really excited about that. We're going to be working alongside the Lakeshore Foundation.
They're rad.
To
they're
think
really
through
cool.
that. And so it's going to be an amazing skate park. It's going to be professionally designed, professionally built. It's going to be we're trying to make it as big as we possibly can, and it's going to have an element for individuals with disabilities, and so we're super excited about it. We're thankful that the city of Hoover has agreed to donate the land, and we hope the skating community in the Birmingham metro area gets behind it and gets excited about it, and to be able to offer two different spots, two different legit, well-designed, great skate spots in the Birmingham metro area, I think is amazing, and I think it's a great. It brings great value to our community, and I think it's going to be kind of a launching pad for a lot of kids to get into skateboarding, which excites me.
Dude, that's absolutely incredible. When we brought you on to talk about First Fest, I had no idea you had that in your back pocket.
Yeah, man. Well,
man, you got a lot going on, my friend.
Well, I'm kind of that way. As the moment I wake up, things start going, and I don't stop until I get in the bed.
I wanted to ask, we had, have you talked with Peter Carbonin of Faith Skate Supply at any point during your investigation or during this process?
I have not. I know Pete knows about it.
Okay.
And so the one thing that I didn't want to do, and because I was a little leery, I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if the city of Hoover is going to do this. And so what I tried to do was I tried to not tell everybody, because the last thing I want to do is get all these people excited, and then all of a sudden I go, sorry guys.
It happens all the time.
All the time, especially with the skate park in Birmingham. We've been talking about a skate park for 15 years.
Yeah. We had Peter on actually and talked at length. You know, he's been trying to get a park built here in Alabama for 20 years.
Forever.
And he's gone to Hoover, and he's gone through, so many council members in Birmingham, and he's had so many ups and downs, getting a grant from the Tony Hawk Foundation. And, every time we thought, okay, this is it, we're getting a skate park, it just seemed to, things would stale.
Rug swept right.
Yes. Yep. And it was a really good conversation. So anybody that's interested in that should definitely go listen.
I'm going to go.
His conversation.
I'm definitely going to go listen to it. And I've always, I've appreciated what Peter's done, for the skate community.
And he probably has a lot of knowledge about some of the pitfalls and some of the things to maybe avoid. So
I mean, we
should definitely
100%. He's one of the first people that we're going to contact and sit down with, because if it's going to be successful, Peter's going to need to be involved. And
just the amount of wisdom that he would bring.
And I'm going to tell him that.
Yeah.
I was like, if this thing's going to be successful, you have to be involved.
Yeah.
And so I know he's heavily involved with the Birmingham skate park and all that, but I do know that Peter will be super excited about this.
Oh, I'm sure. And that's awesome.
And so, but I didn't want to just tell everybody and get all
it's
this.
Probably a smart thing.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen, and then everybody's like, the freaking jerk telling everybody about a skate park, and it doesn't happen. So I really wanted everything to be lined up. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be able for the city of Hoover to get on board and commit, and they have committed in writing. And I wanted to legally get it set up right. So we formed a nonprofit. That took a little while because of COVID. All government agencies, are moving tremendously slow. That took way longer than we thought it would be. But what's awesome about this nonprofit is that 100% of the money that's given to it will go to build the skate park. Not one dime is going to be used for anything outside of building the skate park. And so we've actually worked that into the DNA of the organization.
That's awesome.
And so everybody can rest assured that if I give $100, that $100 is going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to pay for moving land, pouring concrete, doing things like that.
That is really cool, and I'm very surprised to hear that. That's amazing.
Yeah, dude.
I've been so pumped about the skate park that's coming downtown that it's gonna be massive
rad,
park. Yeah, and it actually seems real now. And,
do we know how big it's going to be?
So we compare it for anybody in the skate community that's familiar with the skate park, and he told me the square footage, and I don't want to say it because I'll butcher it, but it will be on par or bigger, if I'm not mistaken, than the public skate park in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Which, Google that when you get home.
Massive.
We've been to it. It is a massive, massive concrete park. And when we had Peter on, we actually were like, what's it going to be like in comparison to Louisville? And he was like, I asked the same question. It's just kind of the biggest skate park close to us that we've been to. It's got a full pipe. It's massive, dude. It's huge. And according to Peter, I want to say that the skate park that we're getting will be larger than that park.
That's amazing.
It's
so cool.
being funded by AlDOT, which is why Peter was convinced that like this is really happening. And he partnered with a skate park building company that's been down this roller coaster with Peter the whole time.
Yeah.
Working with him, and you know, Peter got a grant from the Tony Hawk Foundation, money that he just basically had to sit on so long that he ended up having to give it back.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, I don't know if it was $20,000, $25,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Significant amount. And then they've also raised money, you know, just people donating and just not being able to get any momentum. And so I'm sure he would have a lot of insight.
Yeah.
And you guys should definitely talk, man.
I'm excited to sit down with him and talk to him about it. Now, have you guys heard about the new skate park that the city of Huntsville is doing?
No. I know Huntsville has a skate park.
No, they're building a new one. And it is massive as well.
Maybe I'm thinking of there's another city.
What happened?
It's
We've
where
gone
Jamie-
20 years with no skate parks. Now we got like 3 or 4 popping up.
Yeah.
Well, Montgomery had like a small one, like it was similar to like Homewood had a skate park.
Yeah.
But it was
Skate
basically
park.
just a metal concrete slab with like metal ramps built on top.
Yeah.
Montgomery had a similar park. And then with the whole revitalization that they're going through, that piece of property was super valuable. And they're like, well, we're not going to use a skate park. So they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I want to say there's another city in Alabama, I thought it was Huntsville, that had a skate park. But
Tuscaloosa has a skate park.
Tuscaloosa has one.
And Alabaster, of all places.
Yeah,
has a
yeah,
skate
the
park. And
Alabaster Park.
It's not.
It's not
Yeah.
that big.
But there's one in Auburn as well. I do know there's one in Auburn, and it's supposed to be decent.
It's bugging the crap out of me. I can't think of. Anyways,
But there's
the
one in
Huntsville
Tuscaloosa. There's one in Auburn. There's one in Alabaster. Why is there not one in
Sure.
the Birmingham Hoover
Yeah.
area? But yeah, the one in Huntsville.
I think the latest census named Huntsville the biggest city
Yeah.
in Alabama now.
Yeah.
It rivals. It's surpassed Birmingham.
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the larger city and within Birmingham proper. Of course, our metro area is still significantly larger than Huntsville. But yeah, the cities are
however
have,
they do
have
that,
kind
I
of
guess.
flopped. But I think the park that they're building is supposed to be like 45,000 square feet. It's supposed to be really large too. They're investing $3 million into it.
Wow.
$1 million was donated by an anonymous donor, and then the city's
What?
the city's picking the rest of the tab up.
Dude,
Wow.
that's news to me.
Wow.
Isn't that
That's cool.
crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, go Huntsville.
Yeah, man.
freaking
Huntsville's
awesome,
killing
man.
it. That's awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, a $3 million skate park should be pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. I didn't realize you were up to speed on all the skateboard culture and stuff. That's cool.
Well, again, I love the culture. While I'm not a skateboarder, my son is, and one of the reasons why I've been so passionate about it and getting this thing built is, because of my son and his friends.
Well, you definitely earned some dad points on this one.
Well, I
Dad's
know.
getting
I'm
that
like,
That's just slightly cooler than the mini ramp in the backyard. It's just
yeah.
a
He's
little-
like,
rather than a mini ramp, I'll just build you a whole skate park. How about that?
well, but
It's
yeah,
cool.
so it's been
You're cool.
Yeah, it's for the kids. I mean, he's got a great little community of kids who skate and so and they always come over and skate the mini ramp in the back and.
Well, hooking up with talking to Peter, I mean, maybe he can point you in the direction
Yeah.
of, as far as getting, the hardest part's raising the funds to actually get the thing built.
Yeah.
He talked about, George Ward at one time was going to be a location for a park, but then they came back after the fact, after getting the area approved, and were like, okay, now you got to come up with like something like $20,000 a year to pay us to come and change the trash and to basically maintain it.
Yeah,
So the
so
fact
not
that
a-
Hoover is willing to step up and do that
Yep.
and not put that burden on you guys. And Hoover has the money, it would seem like. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have the money. Sports is important to them, and so which I appreciate. And so I think it really fits within the kind of the DNA of Hoover, and helping them just think a little bit outside the box was, I think, a really good exercise for them. And it being at the Hoover Met at the Finley Center, I don't know if you guys have been up there. The place is crazy. Like it's
I know they've expanded a lot and done a lot of work and stuff.
Oh my gosh, there's there's fields everywhere. It's a really cool place.
They have like the SEC baseball tournament there.
Yeah,
every
they have
year
the
and stuff.
SEC baseball tournament. There's all kinds of tournaments that are always going on, whether it be lacrosse and they got tons of tennis courts, soccer fields. I mean, it's just it's a crazy place now. But choosing that location was very strategic for me. One, it's easily accessible from the interstate. Two, the infrastructure is already there, so lighting won't be a problem. I mean, there's lights in the parking lot. We can literally just tap into, a power line and easily put some power poles up. And then the infrastructure's there for oversight. I was hoping everybody's at the Finley Center. This is on the other side of the parking lot, but there can be some oversight from those guys in there. We don't need an attendant, from
have the
8 to
security
8.
guy just make a little extra loop over there.
Yeah. But then removing trash and those types of things would be easy as well.
It's not like some completely foreign destination.
Yeah. Where they have to build completely new infrastructure. And so there is a little bit of a savings there because it's all right there that we can just kind of tap into.
That's rad, man. That's really cool. A lot of people would be super pumped to hear about that.
Yeah,
So,
I hope so.
That's awesome, man.
Because we got some serious coin to raise.
All right, donate links in the description.
Yeah, we'll put up the GoFundMe page.
Oh man, well I'll send you the link to the website. So
we'll post that like online, share it with this video.
Very cool.
Okay, well before we wrap up, Furnace Fest takes off, does incredible this year.
Yeah.
Could we see it? Could we see another 10-year reunion or a 5-year reunion?
Or is this going to be a recurring thing or any future plans?
Or is this like a one-off, hey, we did
one
it.
and done?
Yeah, so we started with the intention of it just being a kind of a resurrection, a one-time thing. But I'd be lying if I said, man, we're not all really excited about potentially doing it a second year. However, we've all four agreed that if we do it for a second year, we're going to wait to make that decision. We want to make sure that this event's amazing and that we pull it off.
Right.
Without going bankrupt,
sure.
And so the cards are on the table, absolutely. And if we could, there are a few bands that we were like, if we can get these bands, that we would absolutely do it a second year. And so Bane's one of them. And then, Bane would be one of them. And then a Sunny Day Real Estate reunion. If you're not familiar with Sunny Day,
Can't say that I am.
you guys have to go listen to Sunny Day Real Estate.
I'll put that on my list.
So basically, Sunny Day broke up, and they started a tiny band, small band called the Foo Fighters. So,
okay, yeah, that little tiny band that nobody's heard of. Yeah.
So Sunny Day Real Estate would be amazing, and that's definitely on the top of the list that we're going to really try to go after and get a Sunny Day Real Estate reunion.
How is that not on my radar? How do we not know?
I don't know, man. I'm not up to speed on my music history, I guess.
No.
It's the Foo Fighters, bro.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm feeling embarrassed now.
That's all right. They're fantastic though. So
Okay.
super cool.
Well, I'll check them out. Are there tickets still available?
Yeah, so we're sold out of weekend passes.
Weekend passes. I think that's what Katie was looking at yesterday, and she was like, "Dude, they're sold out." Like,
but we do have single days
okay,
that are still available.
okay.
Yeah.
If I wanted to meet Andy Williams from Every Time I Die, could you hook that up?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
I saw that they were playing on.
Shoot your shot, bro.
What is it? The first day. So yeah, any chance I could get some VIP passes to go see them, that'd be awesome. Just if you get a chance, we'll talk after.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Okay,
Hey, we'll give you a T-shirt.
Okay,
sweet,
done.
Well, dude, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy guy for
man.
coming to hang out with us. This has been rad, and I think a lot of people are going to get a kick out of hearing about the
I
behind
hope
the scenes
so,
of
man.
Furnace Fest.
I hope
and
so.
everything
I
to
was
look
like,
forward to.
when you asked me to come on, I was like, I don't know if anybody's even interested to hear me talk. So, but cool,
dude, I think it's sick. And if people want to get tickets, where do they find the single day passes before those are gone?
Yeah, so furnacefest.us is where you can find the ticket link there. So all the information's there. We primarily use Facebook and Instagram for all kind of announcements and those types of things, but furnacefest.us is the place to go.
And just check out social media.
Yep.
Well, thanks, man. We appreciate it. It's been awesome.
So I'm so grateful you guys asked me to come on.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.